All right, so I thought I'd just turn the camera on and have a bit of a chat with you guys about my AE86. I thought I'd bring you guys up to speed, and ultimately I wanted to ask you a question. So I'm actually struggling to make a decision here, but before I ask the question, I may as well bring you guys up to speed. So um, the car's been off the road now for well over 12 months. I took it off the road before we even went to America last year. And originally, the main reason for taking it off the road was because my tappet settings closed up. And while it was in the garage, I just had Matt come over. He reshimmed the buckets for me. And while it was in the garage, I sort of went down a little bit of a rabbit hole and started just changing a few things that I was never really happy with. One of them being the injectors. So when the car was on the dyno, the old injectors, which were an expert 525cc injector, Matt would complain that he couldn't really control them very well. So he recommended a Bosch 450cc injector. So that's obviously what I got. Got those wired in properly. Also, I got a bunch of fabrication work done. So my friend Hack at AH Design and Fab, he done a nice intake setup for me. He did catch can, bigger breathers on the cam covers. So my engine was suffering from crankcase pressure. The dipstick was popping out and it was just blowing oil out everywhere, and it was just excessive crankcase pressure. So bigger breathers, hopefully fix that. Nicer catch can setup, and just an overall just a bit of a revamp of the whole car. There was a few things I can't remember everything off the top of my head, but I was just doing all these little odd jobs, some things that needed to be tidied up a bit. I painted the throttles. I even polished the intake manifold that the throttles bolt onto. So I've got an SQ Engineering adapter plate, and I polished that right up. So just doing a whole heap of little odd jobs. And I'm a little bit disappointed in myself that I did that before I went to America, because if I hadn't have spent all that money on the current setup, I would have just put these Atlantic throttles on there. I would have rather have done it with all this, but obviously I wasn't expecting to get throttle bodies, so I just did what I did with the knowledge that I had, and I didn't, I've got black top 20 valve throttle bodies, which are still really good. So I am still pretty happy with the setup, but yeah, I would have obviously rather have run that. Yeah, so when I originally tuned the car, it made 180 horsepower, and the reason it made 180, and I was expecting it to make more, was because there was a restriction somewhere in the system. So we started out tuning the car, and I had an airbox on the car, and there was a restriction, and then we pulled the airbox off, and then it made more power. I think it stopped at like 160 or 165. I can't remember off the top of my head. And we pulled the airbox off. It made up until like 180 horsepower, and then it stopped. And the reason we think that there's a restriction in the system somewhere was because it's not knock limited. So the way Matt explained it to me was he was putting more and more timing into the engine, and it didn't make any more power. So that was just like a telltale sign that there's a restriction somewhere in the system. And currently I'm just running a 2-inch exhaust. So it's just a Fujitsu stainless steel 2-inch exhaust, which I'm super happy with, other than the fact that it's a restriction and it's killing power. So we're pretty certain that if I go for a larger exhaust system, I should make more power. And my goal from day one was always to make 200 horsepower at the hubs or 150 kilowatt. So I have to go back to the dyno. And I'm not going to go back to the dyno with the current exhaust that I've got. So that's something that I need to upgrade now. And Fujitsu have done a collaboration with Tech Arts, and they do the exact same exhaust that I've got right now, but they do it in a 60 millimeter diameter. Now, I know that Garage 4A GE, he makes 220 horsepower with his 1.6 liter 4A. He obviously revs it really hard, but he makes big power, and he does that with a 3-inch exhaust. So like almost no restriction. And that seems like the obvious answer. Just go for a 3-inch exhaust. I don't think, I haven't been able to find a 3-inch exhaust that you can buy off the shelf for an 8.6. But I don't really want to just go straight to a 3-inch because my header doesn't suit a 3-inch exhaust. So I've got a Toda 4-to-2-to-1 header, and the collector all merges into a 60 millimeter pipe. So to me, it's like if I put a 3-inch exhaust on the car, it's just going to be extremely loud, and then there's always going to be that 60mm restriction before the exhaust gases even get to the main 3-inch pipe. So like I said, Tech Arts do a collaboration with Fujitsu. So you can get the exact same exhaust that I've got right now, which I know that I'm really happy with. I'm happy with the note and just like how it sounds in general. And they do the exact same exhaust, but it's just bigger. So the question is 60mm big enough to make my 200 horsepower goal? I think that the blacktop throttle bodies are capable of doing that. And I also think that the 60mm pipe can do it. But if there's anyone out there that has like first-hand experience with a built 4AGE or a 7AGE and have run a 60mm pipe, exhaust pipe, let me know. Let me know what results you got. Can it be done? Can you make 200 horsepower aspirated with a 60mm exhaust? Now, last year when I was in America, I had a good look at some of the setups that Merle had, and he had a 1.8 litre 4AGE that he ran aspirated in one of his Atlantics, his personal Atlantic cars, and he was making 280 horsepower. I think that was at the flywheel. And I specifically asked him about his exhaust, and he just runs a 2.5-inch straight pipe. So he's making 280 horsepower with a 2.5-inch pipe. So in my mind, I'm thinking the 60mm pipe should be enough. I've also gone online and I've looked at some exhaust size calculators, and when I put 60mm in, it says that it's capable of flowing 229 horsepower. You know, I've gone through different forums. I've gone through an RX-7 forum, says about the same thing, 230 horsepower it should be capable of if you run 60mm diameter pipe. I have found an old article on Keiichi Tsuchiya's car, his old AE86. He's running a 7A bottom end, much the same as me, but with a 20 valve head and 20 valve blacktop throttle bodies. And it says here that he's making 240 horsepower or 217 PS, and that's at 7,200 RPM. So I'm not sure what that figure is, if it's at a flywheel or at the wheels or what's going on there, but I am finding a lot of information saying that maybe a 60mm pipe is going to be enough. And for me, being a street car, I would prefer to have that Fujitsu exhaust. I already know what it's going to sound like. I know I'm going to be happy with it. The big question is, can it make the power with a 60mm exhaust? I know it's probably going to be better than what I've currently got, but will it be capable of doing what I want? So if you have any first-hand experience and you can tell me definitively that, you know, yes it can or no it can't, let me know in the comment section. And I'm kind of leaning towards the Fujitsu option, just because it's another video. Although it's quite a lot of money to just be throwing away just as like an experiment. This is why it's been such a big decision that I haven't been able to make myself. It's a $1,500 exhaust. You know, it's $1,500 to get it to my door. And if I go through all that, you know, buy the exhaust, put it on the car, go to the dyno, I'm paying for a dyno tune, and if it doesn't make any more power, it's just a massive waste of money. But at the same time, if it does do what I want it to, I'll be much happier with that than what I would be if I was running a 3-inch exhaust. And obviously it's going to be a lot cheaper than like my headers. They merge into a 60mm pipe, so if I did go for a 3-inch exhaust, I'd have to go for a custom header. That's going to be at a $3,500 job plus the exhaust. If I do go for a 3-inch exhaust on my 8.6, I'm going to want to go over the diff. Because it's a street car, I'm going to want it to have as much road clearance as possible. So I do know a lot of the GTR guys, they go for an oval exhaust. So in my head, I'd like to put the exhaust, I'd like to mount it in a way where if it was a 3-inch, I might even go oval and maybe put the V-band clamp somewhere up out of the way, like in the way where it would go up over the diff. I would have the V-bands up out of the way so you could have as much road clearance as possible. But that's the question. I don't know if it's a waste of money, or is it going to be okay just to go for a Fujitsu exhaust, or should I just, you know, skip all that nonsense and just go straight for the 3-inch custom header, 3-inch exhaust, maybe put my Atlantic throttles on there, see what it can do. Honestly, I'm pretty confident the car is going to make more power with just the 60mm exhaust, but I've got no doubt that if I go for my Atlantic throttles, 3-inch exhaust, custom header, to me, I've got no doubt that I'm going to get to my horsepower goals. But will I be happy? Will I be happy with the car if it's super loud as a street car? Driving on the highway, is it going to drone? And these are questions that I don't know with a custom exhaust, but I do have these answers if I just stick to the exhaust that I currently have, which I know I'm happy with, but go for the Tech Arts version that's slightly bigger. I don't know. So like I said, if you have first-hand experience, let me know in the comments what you think. Even if you don't have any experience, let me know what you'd like to see in the comments. Let me know what if you'd like to see what the Fujitsu exhaust is capable of. Maybe I could just do the dyno video on it, and then if it doesn't work out for me, it just means take a loss and sell the exhaust and then have to do the 3-inch thing anyway. But yeah, even if you don't have any first-hand experience, I would really like to know your opinion. What would you like to see? And while you're down there, be sure to hit that notification bell and subscribe. And I'll see you guys next time, hopefully on the dyno soon. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys.